Made all kinds of sense. But
you got the munchies after that.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, well, that was a long time ago, by the way. Welcome to Bottle and Mike. And it's a debrief of opening weekend of chukar season. We're down in southeast Oregon. And as you might have heard, I have some company, and I'm really kind of excited about this. It's turned into a kind of a roving, changeable party in a lot of ways. We're outside in a little tiny RV park that's become kind of our pseudo headquarters much of the time. And so joining me on Bottle and Mike, the Upland Nation special podcast, is Tom Jenkins, a friend who's been on before, and Dave Coe, who's been on before. Tom will be in your left speaker. Dave will be in your right speaker. I'm in both because I'm the producer. But we're sitting outside on the Monday of opening weekend of chukar season. It's too hot to hunt. We tried a short hunt this morning, and I think we probably all wish we had shortened it a little bit more. Dave, you had your young dog, well, you've had him the whole weekend with us, Prez, who's a 7-month-old Brittany.
Yep.
And I got to tell you, and we'll touch on a lot of his highlights, but this dog... this is really his first wild bird encounter outside of a dove season hunt,
right.
too.
Yeah, this is his first real hunt. So,
yeah, I'm really proud of him, and he's got all the breeding that you could ever ask for, and it's showing already. So, we'll talk more about some of the highlights there in a moment. And Tom, you've got Ruby with you, and Ruby and Flick, my dog, are good friends, neighbors, and Ruby's like Flick, wire hair that's, getting on in years a little bit, but still up for it and doing a great job. You also brought a friend who's not here with us now, but Joe got out with you quite a bit over this weekend, and you had quite a few. You went to different places than we've been to, and it turns out the irony is the last place we all went this morning was a place that you thought you knew and nobody else did, and then I realized, no, I know that place too, but I found it by accident 4 or 5 seasons ago. So it was interesting, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was, Joe, it was nice to have, Joe and I have hunted together for 35 plus years, so I don't get him over here chukar hunting much.
Yeah.
Because he lives over in the wet side of Oregon. Mm-hmm. But it was a treat to have an old friend over here, and he has Sage, his yellow lab that is like running circles around my 8-year-old wire hair, because this thing is just, I've never seen a lab that has that amount of energy.
My one regret is I didn't get to see her hunt at all, and well, I have many regrets. For the first day and a half, another fan of the podcast, Alan, was here. Alan comes all the way from the Salt Lake City area. This is the second time he's done this, to come see me and visit, and we have yet to hunt together. So, Alan, if you're listening, you're invited back any time. Yep. It was fun. Let's just kind of debrief the opening weekend. We all got here on Friday. This little spot has become almost a high school reunion kind of a location. I'm looking down. It's a little RV park in the middle of nowhere, overlooking an incredible desert and lake and imposing mountains that are, well, including the America's tallest fault block mountain, that one over there. And then the one we were on top of on Saturday morning, Dave, by the way, did you hear that? The elevation of that mountain was 4,947 feet.
I overheard that, yes.
Yes, my feet are still sore from that one. We started there. But we also started with all these people we know who've kind of drifted in and out. At the end of the row there is a friend from an old dog club 30 years ago. And then at that end now are folks who saw us here a couple of years ago. It's kind of like that, isn't it?
Neil is from your dog club?
Yes.
Oh, well, it is a small world, isn't it?
Very.
It turns out that Neil was introduced to his wife by my old high school tennis coach and a dear friend. So they went to college together. So.
Which is hilarious. And then, of course, you and Neil are now related because Neil's Brittany, now since passed, is related to your new Brittany.
Right. So that was an eye opener when we discovered that too. So
yeah, and if you're a Brittany person, you know who Nolan's last bullet is, and what an incredible dog that was. My dog and Tom's dog, we don't belong in that league, but they did admirably as well. We all split up on Saturday morning.
Yes.
You guys went one way, we went the other way. We spent the first part of the morning climbing that mountain and scattering some ashes from old Buster, who you've probably heard about once or twice. How old was he, by the way?
he was a month shy of 13, so he had a pretty good run.
Big Lab, Flick's best friend. Those guys would fall asleep in the back seat together. Never a cross word or a cross bark between them. I just got to laugh because it's been a while since Flick has had to deal with a puppy. Flick is training your dog Prez how to be a puppy around an intact older male.
Respectful.
So he's teaching him respect.
There you go.
Yeah.
And just a quick commercial break because we still got to pay the bills around here no matter where we are located. This part of the Bottle and Mike edition of our Upland Nation podcast brought to you in part by Mid-Valley Clays and Shooting School. Yes, I'm grateful again to the instruction I've received and also all sorts of information on sub-gauge guns. If you are looking for a new sub-gauge shotgun, there's no better place to look than MidvalleyClays.com. Dave Fiedler is your shotgun guru. He knows guns and hunting and has a line on hard-to-get shotguns. He'll ship anywhere. Make him your first call before you decide exactly what you want to buy. And then Flick, among others in the canine crowd here, are fueled on this trip and every trip by Pro Plan Sport dog food from Purina. Learn all about them at ProPlansport.com. Yeah, the only brand that fuels the most sporting dog champions. And then dogs like yours and mine as well. They're out to win the game. Elite athletes need that high protein. That provides the amino acids necessary to nourish muscles, including promoting after-exercise recovery. Learn more at ProPlansport.com.
Tom, where did you, not exactly where did you go, but, tell us kind of where you went and how that went on Saturday.
Well, I think the word is early bird gets the worm.
Yeah.
So typically chukar hunters are late sleepers.
Yes.
And, the word is the birds need to get out of roost and make some scent so you can find them. But when it's pushing 80 degrees this time of year, you need to get out earlier so you can hunt in the cool before it warms up. Anyway, we got into, I think we counted 8 different coveys in an hour and a half. The birds this year are phenomenal. I did shoot one that barely had any color because he was so young. I thought it was a Hun.
Yeah,
chukar.
So successive hatches probably.
Yeah, we've had at least 2. I wouldn't even be surprised some had a third hatch. Who knows? But, and all the coveys were 20, 30 birds. So last year was good. This year is even better.
If you look at Nevada, who probably has the most reliable chukar population forecast, I don't know if they're back to doing it by helicopter or not, but they couldn't contain their elation in the press release announcing that this would be the best population in 30 years.
Oh, wow.
And so if you hunted Nevada this weekend, opening weekend, I'd sure love to get your thoughts on that, anybody. But we're not too far from there, and we're seeing the same thing. Dave and I have been hunting this area off and on, mainly on, for close to 35 years, and I don't think we ever had an opener like we had. Would you agree?
We saw a million birds, and we actually even connected with a few. So,
yeah, I was getting cocky. I shot 100% for the first 4 birds.
Well,
and then my natural abilities kicked in.
Of course, it didn't hurt that I shot the same bird
That's right.
over and over.
You know, if you've hunted with a buddy before, you'll get a kick out of this story. So we're coming down. We had everybody had been told the birds are not up high because they need the water. It's hot, like Tom was saying. And so, but we had a job to do, and we did the job. And on the way back down, we came down a spot that we know pretty well, that tailing pile with all the kind of the junk dump stuff on it. Before we even got down there, a bird gets up wild, and the smoke clears, and I look at him, and he looks at me, and we say in unison, "Did you shoot?" And here comes somebody with a bird. So obviously somebody, including both of us, shot. Same thing happened again, and same thing. So we were doing pretty well for a while there, and then we got a little separated, and we started chasing singles and things like that, and it worked out extremely well. But I can't think of a better way to start a season than to shoot the same bird together. And so that worked out. How about Tom? You were. Let's see. When you went, you were that way, weren't you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh yeah, that's right, over there.
Yeah.
Where Alan ended up the next day.
Yeah, we were in a different mountain range, and the fun part was, we about an hour and a half, and we were heading out going to the second spot, and then we ran into a group of hunters in a quad, and I didn't realize this was such a popular drainage. And they says, "Did you hunt blah blah blah?" I said, "Yep, we'd all done, and we left a few for you." And he goes, "Wow, you guys must have been here early." And I'm like, "Yep."
Yeah.
Yep. And then we ran into another hunter coming up even later. And he says, "You didn't happen to go up to so-and-so creek, did you?" And I'm like, "Yeah, that's where we started."
Yeah.
And he goes, "Wow."
Well, I regret sleeping in both days already, all 3 days, counting today, because of the heat. And what it had, especially today, Flick was just off his game today in any number of ways. I'm going to blame it on the heat and cut him some slack.
There you go.
The sending conditions were vicious and all, but it also got hotter faster today, I think, than Saturday or Sunday.
Yeah, we're pushing 80. It's 81 in my trailer right now.
I believe it, yeah. We're sitting here in the shade, just waiting for the Northern Lights, which never showed up over the weekend. I doubt we'll get them again tonight either.
Well, you have to stay up past 10 to see them, okay?
Well, then never mind.
Yeah.
Well, Dave, you're the astronomer in the crowd. Any chance tonight?
I don't know. I haven't seen any reports. Usually those magnetic storms or the solar activity don't last too many days.
Okay.
But,
all right. Well,
we should be able to, if you get a place where you can see the western horizon low enough without mountains in the way, we still should be able to see the comet.
Well, we aren't going to do that then. But we got lucky last year. We started the season, about 35 miles south of here last year. And it was the annular eclipse.
Right.
And that was kind of fun for a lot of reasons. We got a late start that morning as well, but that's because we stopped where everybody else stopped, got to look through everybody else's telescope and take some pictures and watch the eclipse for a while, which was kind of cool. And if you want to see a fantasized version of that hunting trip, go to Game and Fish magazine because it's in the current edition.
Well, a little bit of literary hyperbole, some artistic license allowed.
Yeah, I got to make it exciting, and when I'm hunting with you, that's a little bit harder than usual.
It was probably, anybody who knows us would know that if the article said we both got doubles, there's got to be a little bit of creativity involved.
Yeah, creative math.
Yeah. Even the eclipse couldn't help our shooting. That's for sure. But that's another place we'll talk about because I'm sure we'll all be there together or separately at some point in the near future. But, let's start on the top line. I've learned a lot on this trip. One is Flick, he's going to be a good uncle to Prez, but they both need to learn their place. And he's learning it too. He hasn't broken in a lot of puppies. Like, now that I think about it, no puppies. So he's got to learn his place as well.
He seems to have figured out the top dog responsibilities.
Oh, And Tom, Ruby and Sage got along, but of course they would. They're both females.
They're both females. Yeah. There is an advantage to that. There was no cat fight. We know we have a cat here in camp.
Yeah, we do.
There's no cat fights going on here.
Yeah, we have. We need to give that cat a name, by the way. It's Midnight Black, and so maybe I just did.
There you go.
Or just the camp cat.
Camp cat, yeah. There is some civilization here. There's about 4 homes here, and then there's the cafe and the gas station
Hotel.
and the 2-room motel, and so it's not like a cat in the middle of nowhere. Although she has extreme feral tendencies, and like I said, I don't know it.
I didn't look that close.
Yeah. Well, Tom, what was the highlight of the weekend for you?
I think, obviously we love to hunt birds and watch our dog, but just having a camp like we have here, we got the campfire pit.
Yep.
A plethora of bottled beverage choices between Scotch and Canadian whiskey.
The selection is dwindling, though.
It is dwindling,
yes.
Which probably contributed not seeing the Northern Lights, because I don't think we cared by that time of night whether we'd see them or not.
Well, there has been a little bit of overcast to the north.
That's true. Yeah, there you go.
That's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
I was a little fuzzy and hazy.
Well, that also contributes to not getting up early. But, you're absolutely right. And you touch on this, and I really want to write this story at some point. It's been a couple years. You got that fire pit we're looking at right now. It's not lit yet, but it ought to be, because it is like, you hear the expression moth to a flame. And a couple years ago, you lit off that fire over at that corner over there, and people just came over.
Yeah.
They just, we didn't know most of them. Some we did. Some we realized we knew from decades ago.
Yep.
And then they pulled in the next day. I mean, the fires are magical things. They always have been. But in a civilized environment, they take us back a few hundred generations, I think.
There's something about staring into a flame. I don't know what it is that's just hypnotizing.
Yeah, and I wonder if, because everybody's getting one now, and I have a version of that, but it's smokeless, and then everybody's buying the propane version of something like that. I think it has to be crackling or aromatic wood, or else it's just false.
Yeah.
Well, that's a valid point, although in the absence of any other option, any flame will do.
Yes, there you go. It's all relative, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
So true.
Well, in the early archery season, we couldn't have either.
Oh, that's right.
So we would put a Coleman lantern in the fire pit. That's the best we would legally do. And it's better than the dark. It's interesting.
That is hilarious, but I love the idea. Necessity is the mother of invention. That is great.
It is.
Well, so tell us about the first birds you encountered. Well, because you're the only guys who saw Hungarian partridge on this trip.
Yeah, there's some Huns. Every year there seems to be more and more Huns, which is awesome. But like everything, a lot of young birds, this is as dumb as they get this weekend.
Yep.
So they get up, they fly a few hundred yards, and they land again, and you get another crack at them. So we had a lot of that going on.
Well, which is, for Huns, it's typical behavior.
Yeah.
But for chukars and quail, you're right. This year so far, I mean, granted, it's opening weekend when we're sitting here. I've seen that more than I've ever seen that. Dave, when we were up on that spot yesterday morning, all those quail, valley quail, everybody, most of them would fly. They were in thick cover, creek bottom with head-high willows and sagebrush on the edges and some other plant or wild roses. So they'd get up and they'd go as they would fly as little as they had to fly, and then just vanish. I mean, because, granted, an air-washed bird's not going to have a lot of scent, but we had to work hard to find those birds on the second and third flight, didn't we?
Yep. But fortunately, there were a few bonus chukars floating around in that creek bottom too.
Wasn't that incredible to find those down there? I loved every minute of it. I was totally baffled by that, but I'm not complaining because Flick gave me some great work. We had the wind right. In fact, didn't that work? The wind was in our faces going downstream, and when we did an about face, the wind did too, and we had it in our faces going back. There's our midnight cat taking a drink from the rain water reservoir right there. But anyway,
female.
Okay, Tom's already gotten the look.
Yep.
And I'll take your word for it.
No,
I don't need to put my face there.
Nope, there's a female.
The thing that astounded me was those two chukars, and we've done that before. You know that creek up there past Raven Wing's house. Mm-hmm. Oh, Raven, if you're listening, I hope you don't mind. But it was those were the only two, weren't they?
Well, there was two that flushed that your dog put up that were a surprise.
Yeah,
and then there was 2 or 3 more that were running.
Yeah,
those were the ones that you ended up executing.
Yeah, so they went up one of the fingers going down, one of the dry canyons going down into that little creek. There's water everywhere, and that helps, of course. That's why the birds are down low. But they went up, but they only went up as far as they had to go up. And the thing I noticed about the quail and the chukars this so far is it's textbook behavior. They only fly until they can put something between you and them. And in that case, it was a couple folds in the landscape, and he worked up. I looked at him, and he looked at me, and there he was. You know, I was eyeball height to him on the slope, and he just stood there. You saw that, didn't you? That was pretty good performance.
It was good dog work.
Yeah. And it was close enough. And for once, because I was downhill from everybody, it was a rising chukar shot. How often do you get those?
That's the best.
Yeah. Yeah. Now he's bragging about it over there. That's Flick, by the way. He's supposed to be exhausted, but he's not.
Well, he's seeing a cat walk by him. He's not happy that he can't do something about that.
Well, he thinks cats are little dogs, knock wood. That it could be a lot worse. Dave, what was your highlight of the trip so far?
Oh, God, no question. It was seeing the light bulb turn on with my 7-month-old pup. Prez has outperformed my highest expectations on this trip. He has given me solid points on both quail and chukar. The first quail he locked up on, I managed to actually hit it when it flew, and he stayed steady, did not break to go chase it until I sent him to retrieve. It's just been amazing, mature dog work from a pup that's never done it at all. So that's just as thrilling as it gets.
Good DNA.
Yeah, absolutely. The breeding is part of that. Part of it is we've had enough opportunities for him to encounter wild birds and figure out that if I hold still, sometimes the magic happens. If I just bust through all of them, nothing happens except we keep going. But the first time I saw that point, I thought that is amazing. You know, you hear the old timers will always tell you, let the birds teach the dog. It was so obvious in that case, and it worked so well. And again, knock wood, we had so many bird encounters that he could put 2 and 2 together and get 4 over and over again.
Yeah, we could have, in a different year, we might have walked him down to bloody stumps and never had him have a chance to do anything. So.
Yeah. Yeah, and you know, the other thing that I was really interested in was what he would do hunting with a mature, big running dog. And he never chased. He never thought his job was to follow Flick. And that, again, has got to a great degree to be breeding that is all about creating bold, independent dogs that figure out, well, this is how I find birds, not by playing with him,
Yeah.
but by going out and being inquisitive. And it just, maybe a half hour into the first morning is all it took for that light bulb to go off. And then after that, it was Katie bar the door. It was just incredible. We actually had we had what I'll call a point in the back yesterday afternoon on that creek that we were lucky enough to find, that was downstream from the part that you didn't find any birds on. By the way, they were all the way down there with us.
Of course they were.
Yeah, but I don't remember. It probably was a quail, because that was a big quail spot. But he whether he was just surprised, puzzled, or whatever, but he was in the vicinity of Flick when Flick hit a quail point, and for about a second, it looked like he was actually backing. And he was. And, I don't know, if you're a pro trainer, maybe you can tell me. I think half the time when a dog is backing, they're saying, what's going on up there? And until I figure it out, I'm just gonna stand here and look at that. So we had that going for us too, and it just turned out wonderfully.
Okay, you guys, pour another one. Don't forget about me. Well, I make a quick commercial message or two here to remind people that this part of the Upland Nation podcast, brought to you by TrulockChokes.com, TruLock, TrulockChokes.com. I'm shooting well, in large part to my sponsors, including TrulockChokes. They are made with the highest quality materials, engineering, equipment, and quality control. Choke tubes are precision made on tight tolerances with state-of-the-art CNC equipment right here in the good old US of A from US Steel. Learn more about why they will add another bird to your bag, just like they're doing for me, at TrulockChokes.com. And every day after the hunt, I'm using products from SageAndBreaker.com for gun cleaning and then for transport. Put it in the shotgun case when I'm in somebody else's truck. And then at the end of the day, I'm pulling out that little spray bottle of CLP and using it on all the metal. Wipe it down, run the bore cleaner through that thing, and you're ready for the next day, knowing your gun is safe, protected. Learn more at SageAndBreaker.com. Finally, yeah, I am shooting well. And the other thing, in addition to chokes and the right shotgun, is the sights that I've put on. Yeah, even I can put them on from HiVizSights.com. I'm not aiming. I'm looking at the bird, but I am seeing the muzzle with my subconscious. HiViz sights.com. Learn more about their patented interlocking light pipe system. You can switch them out, change colors, change configurations. Most of them don't even require a tool. They're magnetic. But even the ones that require a little screwdriver or something like that are very easy to install, change out, depending on weather, visibility, and maybe your fashion sense. Learn more at HiVizSights.com.
Tom, yesterday you went somewhere else, and then you went there, and we went back today just to show it to us. But anything yesterday that really comes to mind?
Well, we were, you're still trying to figure out, are the birds high, are they low, or are they just everywhere?
Yeah.
And the conclusion is we split up 2 hours into the hunt. Joe went high, I went low, and I said, well, this will be a good data collection.
Yeah.
And there was just as many birds higher as there was lower.
Really?
So the birds are where you find them. And there's a lot of country, even though there are a lot of birds,
yeah,
there's a lot of empty country you can walk through. So you just have to cover ground,
yeah,
and get into birds. But I think we combined got into over 12 coveys of chukars, we counted.
Wow.
Yesterday. And they're all 25, 30 in a covey. They're all, that's the other problem, I think. because they're so grouped up.
Lots of eyes.
They haven't been pressured yet, so they haven't got dispersed a little more, where you'd maybe be running into actually more birds over a 3 or 4 hour period than you do, because they're all so condensed in big coveys right now.
Yeah, you make a good point, and it seldom happens, but most of the places we went, there were no tire tracks.
No.
We were the first, granted, it's opening weekend, but there's nothing like that feeling. There really isn't. And it does mean interesting things, hopefully naive birds, but also big bunches. And as we learn in Montana for sharptails or the Dakotas, the more birds, the more pairs of eyes that are looking out for you too. And we had a lot of coveys we never got close to, and I think that's part of it.
Yeah, the thing I love about out here is it's such big country. I don't know, opening day in South Dakota, I haven't done that, but there's probably a few hunters.
Is this a couple?
Yeah, you see some orange.
If South Dakota was a country, it would be a national holiday.
Right.
Yes.
So here, if you see another hunter, it's like, wow.
Absolutely.
And that's the thing I love about being here in Southeast Oregon somewhere. It's just so vast, and it's almost like hunting a wilderness backpack hunt.
Well, it's funny because we are at the foot of a wilderness.
We are.
I mean, an official wilderness, and we were walking around in a lot of it over this weekend, and there is all of that and more. By the way, you're listening to the Upland Nation podcast, bonus edition. I'm calling these the bottle and the mic, although all of us, Dave's got a bottle, we've got cans, and we've each got a microphone. But, you said high and you said low, but as high as we'll be doing in November?
No.
Yeah.
No. So they're close to water, which is typically lower. It's not up on the ridge tops.
Not now.
But once we get some moisture and some snow where they don't really need to go to springs for their water, they'll go high and away, because they don't get harassed up there if you have to climb 2,000 or 3,000 feet. Elevation.
When we were in that spot today with all the big springs and the lush vegetation, I thought you got tangled up in it, and we're going to find your bleached bones, Dave, next season when we finally went back there. But I looked up at some of those really high spots, the 5,000-foot, 6,000-foot pinnacles up there, and I thought, if somebody would drop me from a helicopter right there, I wonder what I'd find. Do you think there are birds way up there at the top in the wintertime?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's kind of like elk hunting. I think that's why I like chukar.
Yeah.
You're trying to find those later in the season.
Yeah.
Those little hidey holes that nobody wants to go to.
Yep.
And you find that, and you'll find birds if the habitat's there. So that's the fun part about this, is getting on your Onyx or whatever you use and figuring out, okay, where would somebody not have gone after 3 months of hunting?
Well, it's funny. Yeah, that's a great way to look at it. I was describing to somebody earlier today a stream that many of us have fished. In fact, everybody, I think, right? I was going to say, in this room. We're not in a room. We're outside.
It's a big room.
That stream, I said, even though it gets really crowded, you can follow on from somebody else who may have missed most of the good fishing spots, but you got to keep moving. And Sergeant Ben Warner, 82nd Airborne, kept reminding me of that. Walk a mile farther than everybody else.
Yep.
You big game hunters are always doing that.
Yep. That's why this appeals to me, because I'm one of those.
Yeah. And the strategy involved, you really do have to have one. Mainly for me, it's trying to avoid as much uphill climbing as possible, but still getting up high. And in the wilderness, we can't do that near as much as we used to be able to do that when we could drive up that creek.
Oh yeah. When the road was open, we used to go get a lot more elevation. And now with the gate at the bottom and the wilderness area designation, it's all shoe leather.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah, well, but
that's a good thing, too.
Yes. Yeah, and you earn your birds, no doubt about it. A lot of people are probably sitting here saying, well, why would you name your dog Prez? So why don't you just?
I think I made that comment today.
Tom, among others. And if you're a musician,
Which I'm
and
not.
you're a jazz fan, you might know. But Dave, tell us the backstory, and it starts with another dog.
Well, I have 2 pups. One's 8 months and the other's 7 months. And the 8-month-old pup is a Boston Terrier, and I named her Billie Holiday. I had a Boston almost 40 years ago,
Yes.
or over 40 years ago, and it was named Ella Fitzgerald. And so I'm a jazz fan and a player, and so anyway, I always wanted another Boston, so I picked up one after we lost Buster. And Billie Holiday's best friend was the great legendary jazz tenor sax player Lester Young, and his nickname was Prez. So I have Billie Holiday and Lester Young, a.k.a. Prez.
And they play well together.
They do play well. They make beautiful music.
Yeah, he's something else. He's a beautiful dog. He's got, if you know Brittany's, granted, they're different, but French Brittany's are a different breed altogether, but they started the same way back in the day. This Prez, at 7 months, he's a very leggy, good, beautiful running dog. He moves elegantly, and he's got a little bit of that French head with a very pronounced stop, that part right on his nose that comes up to his. It's just the right shape, and it's got freckles. How can you get mad at a dog with freckles? So I can't wait to hunt with him again, and looking forward to that. Well, it was our opening weekend. We didn't get into a lot of details about all this stuff. What would you give? Let's each of us give a tip for anybody who's considering coming out to this kind of country in the future and trying a chukar hunt, because everybody wants to have a chukar hunt. Let's talk about some of the things that we would advise people to do. And you can start, Tom.
Be in shape.
Yeah.
Have your dog in shape, which
Yep.
I have neglected both of those things this opener.
Yeah, well, you're like me. You work for yourself, so you work when you work.
I do, and if we look around our camp here, I would just probably label it as a geriatric camp. You were talking about.
I represent that.
Wait a minute, you said something about the old timers staying. I'm like, I don't know if you've looked in the mirror lately, but there's a bunch of old timers sitting right here.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
As the oldest guy in the quote unquote room, I resemble that remark.
exactly. So yeah, I guess I'm the youngest.
Yeah, so
Geriatric
getting
guy
in shape, absolutely. And, there are a lot of arrogant chukar hunters. I'm just going to say it. And if you are one of those, you can go to hell, because I don't like that attitude. There's a lot of people who just think I'm in better shape, I can climb faster and higher, and the rest of you just get out of my way. I'm not an advocate of inclusivity in all of its aspects, but there's chukar hunting out there for everybody, of everybody's shape, color, and description. You just got to be strategic about it.
Yep.
But no matter what you're doing, you better be in shape.
There are flattish chukar hunts that can be found.
Yeah.
And there's chukar there.
Yeah.
But that is the rarity, because most of it is elevation, baby.
I tell people 2 things. First off, make friends with the Stairmaster, and then just know the first hour of a hunt is going to be an uphill climb.
Yep.
You might encounter a bird on that. A bear too. Wouldn't that be great? Talk about a helicopter drop.
Well, that's another story.
Yes, it is. But that's going to be in that other story, by the way. That's going to be the highlight of that story for Sporting Classics magazine.
I can't wait.
But, so walking is not enough. You like the butte by my house, which is now by your house.
Yes.
Welcome to the neighborhood.
Yeah.
Because it's basically a simulated chukar hunt.
It is.
You're climbing uphill
Yeah.
on kind of ugly ground that is tricky. and that's what you need. You got to have aerobic capacity, but you also have to have muscular strength. And if you don't have both, well, at the end of the day, you're going to be like all of us. You're going to be knocking back that hot shot so you don't have leg cramps all night, you know. Dave, what about you? What kind of a tip would you offer up to people who want to try this kind of thing?
Well, don't be surprised if you have to put in a lot of miles. And a lightweight shotgun is nice to have on a chucker hunt.
Oh, man.
Yeah, you like that gun you're shooting?
I like that gun I'm shooting. Thank you very much. I'm so pleased that you never were able to learn to shoot left-handed.
Yes, and I'm so pleased I found a home for that thing. It's a beautiful little side-by-side Bayou Gartachea, which I learned to shoot on. And I shot it extremely well when I was taking a lot of lessons, and I'm just glad I found a good home. And it's funny. You're gonna hate me for this, but I was looking at you yesterday because Dave gets all the things that I have no home for, and I
appreciate that.
Yeah. So I said that I'm looking at him all decked out in his new vest, carrying a gun that was mine, and I said, Dave, if it wasn't for me, you'd be carrying a gunny sack and throwing rocks at the birds. And at that moment in time, it was pretty much true.
I'm not arguing.
Yeah. But we're lucky enough to be able to do that, and you're right. Just keep walking. Isn't that the truth? You know, there's a lot to be said for habitat. But Tom, we found birds, and you guys did too, and you in fact found huns in the same thing. I did a story a couple of years ago about finding huns in what I call chucker light habitat.
Yep.
Smaller rocks, gentler slopes, shorter grass, but basically where you wouldn't be surprised to find chuckers. Where did you find those huns that you guys found?
You know, typically that's where you find them.
Yeah.
But I'm finding huns more and more mixed in the same place that chuckers live.
Yes.
And I don't know why. Maybe they're more adventurous than the average hun. But I've been on chucker covey, and then 5 minutes later I bust a covey of huns.
Yeah.
But they do tend to like the little more flattish little dips and basins than being up on a rocky rim like a chucker would be.
Yeah, although I found them amongst the football-sized rocks. Not the big rocks like we see up there.
Yeah, not the rim rock. You won't see them in the rim rock.
Yeah.
They'll be in the grass down below where it kind of levels out a little bit, but in that same elevation band.
Well, last year I was a little bit further south over to where I was supposed to go day after tomorrow, except for the rain. But they were in quail country and they were in chucker country and nowhere else. It was just the strangest thing. I actually have hunted huns specifically 2 or 3 times in the last season or two, and they were always in places I wouldn't think they would be. Luckily, I was with a friend who knew that country pretty well. That's why we were there. But they just they're everywhere these days, aren't they? In the West, we should qualify this by telling you, this is not the Midwest. This is not. You're not going to find huns in farmyards or cultivated fields, for example, and things like that. This is wild country, public ground, and so they don't have all the choices they have for crop feed and things like, and water sources, for example.
Yeah, but you typically would find huns around agriculture. I mean, that's even here.
Sure.
So, but it seems like they're spreading out.
Yeah.
Beyond that, because there's not much for agriculture where we're at right here.
Dave, you're from south of here quite a ways. This country is in large part way different than where you hunt your valley quail.
Radically different.
Which are in the valleys.
Yeah.
Or in great, broader creek bottoms.
Creek bottoms and river bottoms is normally where I'm hunting.
Yeah, blackberry thickets.
Or foothills.
Yeah.
But like you say, blackberries is key oftentimes to finding. If you see a good sized patch of blackberries, then odds are it's got a population of quail in it. Then you just got to figure out how to get them out.
Well, I'll never forget among the many inspirations for Missy, who was Dave's half lab, half Brittany. She looked like a pint-sized yellow Labrador. She had more heart than any 4 dogs you've ever met, and we could talk all day about her.
Yeah.
But I remember her going into that. These are blackberry. These are single blackberry bushes that are the size of my travel trailer
Or bigger.
Yes. And nobody goes in there, but she did.
She would go in there and bust. She would not quit until the birds flew.
And she'd come out with bloody ears.
The inside of my car used to look like it was the scene of a mass murder or something.
Yes.
She'd go get in the car and shake, and blood spatter everywhere.
Yeah.
But as long as she knew there was birds in there, she didn't care.
Yeah.
And she was no quitting that dog.
You know, I got to tell one more story about her, and that's that one. This was so long ago, but it was right up there, and you know where I'm talking about. And you almost went there yesterday, Tom. We were hunkered down under kind of a cliff because it was pouring rain, and it was a miserable walk. And she was with us, and I probably had a wire hair of one description or another.
That would have been Bill.
Bill, yes. And we were just trying to get out of the rain before we could slip and slide all the way back down to the truck. And who was under that cliff with us but one chukar? And he finally got nervous enough to leave. Decided we're not the guys that you want to share, the shelter with. Did we shoot and then look at each other and say, did you shoot?
No, as I recall, I shot that bird.
And it went down the hill 400 yards and dropped dead. And Missy was the first one out of the cliff and down the hill looking for that for that bird, and she found it. It was a straight shot, but once she found it, she was coming back, but she wasn't really coming back. She was going right and then left and right and left, and we're yelling and screaming, and I don't remember what else. And that, God bless her, she finally gets close enough to where we look. She's got the chukar in her mouth. Okay, everybody, imagine this. You've got a chukar in front of you. It's you bite into the breast like you're going to carry it. And one of the wings is right over your eyes. Well, that was the inspiration for the real bird bumper that I designed with one wing so that all dogs from Missy on could learn how to carry a chukar or anything else without being blindfolded. So that was Missy. Here's to you.
Hear, hear.
Hear, hear.
We could talk all day or all night, but we're not going to. Opening weekend, suffice it to say, was, in one word, Tom?
Phenomenal.
Dave?
Stellar.
Epic.
Yep.
Kids, do try this, but not at home. Get your folks out. Try it someday. It doesn't matter. Quail, chukars, pheasants, whatever it is. I hope you all had as great an opening weekend as we did. Thanks for listening to this bonus edition of the Bottle and Mike version of the Upland Nation podcast.
Well, another one in the bucket, so to speak, thanks in large part to our sponsors, including MidwayUSA.com. Yeah, I've been there, done that with them, and boy, am I impressed. Luckily, they are my go-to supply for ammo, and I'm going to need more sooner than later at the rate I'm shooting these days. Yeah, connecting on enough, but missing enough too. So if you're looking for ammo, specialty ammo, or anything else, they've got it at MidwayUSA.com. Sign up for their emails or text messages and get 10% off your next order. That's MidwayUSA.com. Boy, we put the small gauge guns to the test here in the Chukar Hills. They were fun to play with, and they did the job, and they were from PointerShotguns.com. Even if this late into the game you're looking for a new shotgun, that's the starting point for you. Shop all the configurations, all the gauges, all the finishes, find a dealer, and remember, the best over and under for less than $500? Well, according to Target Focused Life, that's the pointer Acreus. We used them. They did the job. You can afford one, too. Just as important, pointershotguns.com.